everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Here we are now with part 5 of the, no it's not, it's part 4 of the mods video for this Lancia Delta Integrale. This is the 1/12 scale kit from Italeri. Here it is here, you can see it's really big. Lighting is a bit funny because I've got my magnifier just here so that I can do some fine work on camera for you. So I'll try to sort the lighting out in the exposure at the end when I edit it. Anyway, I have literally a couple of hours ago finished filming part 4. Part 3, got bloody part 5 on the brain. Last finished part 3, and as you know, I'm waiting for some 1.5mm brass rod to sort out all this rubbish on the front suspension. So that's all in the post. So I started looking at the back end. This is the kit here, and in case you're looking to buy this in the shops, this is what you'll see on the front of the box. And this is actually not this kit. I don't know what this is, but this kit doesn't have that large lump in there. It doesn't have working headlights. It has different wheel centers and stuff. That is not this model, so I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, going into the instructions, we can see here's the rear suspension now, and what we're doing is actually building up the rear differential, then we're putting it in its subframe, mounting that to the floor and the prop shaft, and then adding that cradle over the top, and then we're going to put these bars in here. As you can see, you've got all the trailing arms there going in, so you've got the can't think what they're called now. No, the links anyway from the subframe going out to the main hubs. Okay, so you've got the front links here, transverse links, and the rear transverse links there. You've got a support bar here, which is probably part of the rally car, not in the road car. And then you've got these pivots here, which I've already mounted to the floor. If you didn't see that, that's all in part 2. But you can see I've got them there. They're fitted and already mounted to the floor, so I can get them in nice and square and everything. Lots and lots of work to do on them. They're awful mouldings. So they're in. Now, these, as you can see, what we've got here going on is we've got screws going in here for these rear pivots. So why they couldn't use screws everywhere, I do not know. We also have screws going in here for the actual uprights going in the back. So the back end is going to be great compared to the front, which is abysmal. So we've got all these lovely strong screws going in. That's all going to be great. That's very Tamiya-like. The only trouble is you'll have screw heads, which I hate, but you can always put a bit of Mr. Surfacer on them, make them look like bolts or something. But anyway, going forward, and there's just no pleasing some people, is there? So basically these arms here, you can see you've got this arm here, which is this arm here, which has got that pin going through that transverse link into the subframe, and then you've got that pin going into the body mount, which is holding that trailing arm, and which is going to be going into your suspension. So basically these transverse links stop the wheel moving in and out sideways, and then this one stops the wheel moving forward and aft, and then you've got your adjustment at the top to adjust camber and caster, or you can adjust it on the transverse links. I think what you'll find is on the rear car the forward link is solid and the rear one is adjustable. But this not being an Evo, I'm not sure. I did find some pictures and I thought the front one was solid. So all the rest of this is all adjustable, I think. So we need to take out the weak spot, which is this arm here. So that arm there is this piece here, and as you can see, it's a pretty crap design. It's not a crap design. It's just moulded in plastic, and it should have been moulded in white metal or had screws going through or something. But basically, what I'm going to do is give you some dimensions, because I can use my vernier caliper, or caliper, it's not a vernier at all, it's a digital caliper. So I can tell you that these pins, so if we look at the end here, which is the rear end, okay, so we'll call this the rear end and this the front end. This goes into the diff subframe, this end goes into the link in the body. So this end is 1mm, okay, and this end is 1.2. Alright, so we've got some 1mm and some 1.2mm rod to replace them with. And you also notice when you look at the back, you can see it's all kind of chamfered off. Why is my lighting so awful? When you look at the back, you can see it's chamfered off. Okay, so you're going to have to extend the rod through there. So I've already done one just to check it all works out all right, and you can see here I've got the metal rods in there. So now we've got metal pivots for those plastic arms. The plastic arms themselves aren't very strong, but they're absolutely fine for the job. It's the plastic pins that will shear off, because basically that pin at that end has got the transverse link coming across, okay, and that pin at that end has got the trailing arm coming off of it. So whenever you put the model down, it's got a screw on each end on the outer, on the upright, so the weak point is there. So it's going to be trying to snap that off all the time, and then you've got your forward after it, it's going to be trying to snap that one off all the time. Now these may well be perfectly ample and perfectly strong, but they won't be good forever, and you can't be sure that they're going to be okay. So the best thing, I think, bit of insurance, all it costs is a bit of time, replace them with some brass rod, and then you know you're good to go. So basically what we're going to do is get rid of this, and I'm going to show you how I do it. The other thing we're going to do is look at dimensions. As I say, this end here, the rear end, is diameter 1 mil, and there is 5.8 millimeters of pin exposed. And then this one here, the forward end, is 1.2 diameter, and it's got 5.8 millimeters of pin exposed. Now you may choose to put a little bit less than that, because at the moment what they're doing is 1960s technology, just heat the end of the pin and melt it, so that you actually get a melted in pin on that end. What I will do is punch out a couple of bits of plastic card. So I'll punch out a disc of, say, 1.82 mil diameter, put a 1.2 mil hole through it, and then push it over the end of the drop of super glue. You'll see me do that when I actually come to do it, and that will look like it's a nut on there then, or a nut on a stud or whatever. So basically what we've got to do is convert this into this, and the piece of rod has fallen out. Now I didn't have any 1 mil brass rod. I thought I did. I've obviously used it all up, but I had some 1 mil copper tube, which is going to be absolutely fine in this sort of application, because basically the parts are between brackets, so it's not like it's hanging out and it's going to be trying to bend it like this. It's basically between two brackets and the arm's coming off there, so it's going to be more than strong. The plastic arm will break long before the copper will. So there we go. So what we're going to do first of all is drill these out, and the way I do this is to come along with a pair of cutters. I've got everything here except a pair of cutters, and I cut the end off, but I leave about 1 millimeter, half a millimeter on there. Okay, then get a 400 grit sanding stick or something fine-ish, and just sand it off flat so that you can see. But now you can basically see that I've cut that off, and you can see that we've got a bit of a pip there, and that enables you to be able to see the center where you're drilling. So what I'm doing now is just come along with my, now hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I've got my magnifier off to my left, so I'm just going to come along with my pointed implement and just make a mark in the center, and then you can, as you can see, if I get slightly off, I can push the hole over and pull it to the center. Okay, you need to be as close as you can. It's not absolutely critical, but it needs to be as close as you can get it to the center. There we go. And then I'm going to come along. This is a tiny drill. This is a 0.35 drill actually. And I've got lots of these. For some reason I broke all the other sizes, didn't break these. So little power tool, and I'm just going to come along and I'm going to drill through, and I'm going to make sure that I keep the drill square. So I'm just going to start off and let the drill just start. Okay, and then I'm going to look at the part. I'm going to look at the drill in all angles. So I'm going to make sure I'm square that way and square that way, and then just go through a little bit at a time. That's good. I've just found in there was a hollow, so there's a void in there which makes that pin even weaker, so that definitely would have snapped off, definitely. So square that way. Okay, so 90 degrees to that face, square that way, and then just go through, and you'll come out on the back. Just turn that off, and you come out on the back, and we can look in there and we can see now where we've come through. You can try and see. The trouble is, if I have the exposure down, because it's almost white plastic, it's struggling. But it's all down to my lighting, which I need to improve. But I can see that it's off to one side, and this is why I use a tiny drill to start with, because then I can come along with my tiny drill, and I can move the hole over, not worry about it. If I go straight in with a drill that's not already the right size, I end up with a great big mess. So as you can see, I can just go in there and move it around and get it so that I've got a hole in the middle. Okay, so we'll take that drill out of there, put that back in the box. Now from here on I'm going to use hand tools because I'd rather have the control of a drill. So I'm going to come in here with, like, I don't know, a 0.75 drill. David Union pin vise, absolutely awesome bit of kit. And I'm not just saying it to try and sell them, it really is good. Because as you know, you get this type here and you're forever changing collets, and it seems the collet is never the right size. It's always too big for the drill you want to use, and then the next size down is too small. It's like, ugh. So, but this thing goes from, I've said it before, it goes from 0.3 to 5 millimeters with one pin vise. So when you're doing stuff like this where you're working your way up, you're not forever having to change collets. So what we can do there is come in with this 0.75 drill and just go through, again, keeping square. And this is the beauty of using hand tools rather than power tools. You've got all the time in the world to manipulate things. Okay, so keeping that square, going through like that. And again, we've still got plenty of room, we've still got plenty of play, plenty of area to mess with. And this one's going to be 1 mil. So we're almost out to full size now. Okay, so we put that drill back in our box. And I'm going to come out to like 0.9 on here. I'm just going to check the size because sometimes these drills get mixed up. Yep, that's 0.9. Okay, so we can go in here now, again, staying on center, keeping square, keeping straight, just like so. And this doesn't just apply to this kit, guys, this applies to everything you build, whatever it is. Aircraft, suspension, undercarriage, whatever. And then you've got 1 mil drill here. Again, check the drill, you don't want to be going too far. That's 0.95, and that's 1 mil. And then we're just going to open it up slightly to like 1.1. And the reason I do that is because if you have a 1 mil pin going into a 1 mil hole, well, basically if you push the pin in and you have to push it hard to go in, you're going to wipe away all the glue that you put in there, and there's going to be nowhere for the glue to capillary in. Now I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that on there. That hole has come through central on that raised lump out of the back, okay, and that's what you're looking for. And as you can see on the front, it's gone through central. We've still got that raised step there, and that's how we know we're staying on center. We should end up with a very, very thin slither of plastic around our drilled hole. So that's the 1 mil drill gone in. Okay, so that I'm not going to touch any more of those. And I will find that if I get my bit of copper, it won't go in there because it's too small. So what I'm going to do is get a this is a 1.1. Okay, and again, this is the beauty of this chuck. Look, I can go from 0.7 drill all the way up to that one without worrying. And then I'm going to go in with this one again, keeping it nice and square. Just let that pull its way through. And there we are, job done. Put that back in its box. And then we've got our piece of copper here, which I've already put a chamfer on. And that's going to go in there. So what I'm going to do is just sand off the front. There was a tiny little burr left on there. Just sand off the back. And then I can put that bit of copper into there, and you can see, you can't see, I've gone round with a knife and messed up the outside. You just go along with a knife like this, especially on copper because it's so soft, and just without pushing down too hard, just do it on an angle, and what will happen is the knife will ride across the copper and it makes some grooves. I don't think for a minute you're going to be able to see this, but it makes some grooves in the end. You might be able to see that, and that gives the glue something to bite on. Okay, and then we can put that in there, and because this is only 1 mil and the lump on the back is bigger, then we'll have that like that. Okay, we can check the length. What we want is 5.8, isn't it? So there's 5.85, that's near enough. We can push that along into there, and then we can just glue that in position. And then with these brilliant files, these things are amazing, these diamond taper files from Infini. They're available from Premium Hobbies if he's got them in stock. And basically you can get some glue in. As you can see, I've got a bit of play in there. I want that because I've got room for the glue to go. And if I use a non-instant setting CA, I'll be able to position that and get it nice and square while I'm looking at it, and I know that it ain't going to come out because the glue will stick very well to the plastic, and because of the grooves in the copper it will stick very well to there. So that's that done. Now I've got to do the other end, and I'm not going to bore you with that on camera. The only side to this is we're going to have to change the build sequence because I've already glued these parts into the floor. So because you can imagine you've got this like this, okay, you're not going to be able to slot that into there and then that into there probably, unless there's loads of play in this hole. So what I'm going to do is actually fit this into here, fit those trailing arms and these links, and then fit the subframe in after onto those two pins. And that way I know that I'm going to be good to go. Because if you haven't got loads of play in those holes, then it's not going to go in them at the Sundays. In fact, looking at it now, what we could do is actually fit the diff and then fit that. Oh no, because it won't go over. But anyway, there we go. So that's how I've done that. So that's the rear suspension taken care of, guys, because as I say, everything else is screws. You've got screws going in there. You've got screws out here on the outer ends. You've got a screw going into the trailing link into the back of the upright. And there's a nut on the front of the screw there. The back end is going to be solid compared to the front. So there we are. So that's that for that little bit. I'm going to get on and drill that other one out, and then I'll come back when I glue them in together. So that's all the drilling done on there. Clear up my mess. So we've got the 1.2 hole in one end and a 1mm hole in the other. And as I said earlier, you can see on there we've got some of that lump left on that side, so we're going to have to basically file that flat with that one. On this side we lost it, so we have to make the brass pin slightly longer, and I've actually made this with the filed end and everything. I've made this 8.75, okay, and the other one, the copper one, the 1mm diameter, is 9.5, so they both stick out 5.8mm. So I'm going to set this to 5.8mm. They both stick out 5.8mm, although it's not critical. 5.7, 5.9, probably 6 would be fine. Just drill the hole a bit deeper. And the one that goes in the side, the 1.2, it doesn't really matter how long you have it. If it's too long, it's too long. So we'll do the 1.2 first. That's going to go in this bigger end. And I don't know if you can see on there. You probably can't. I filed a chamfer on the end of that so that it fits in here neatly. And what I'm not going to do is put it in the wrong way round. No, what I'm not going to do is put the glue in first, because once you put the glue in, you've had it. And the other thing I am just going to quickly do is grab a pretty coarse sanding stick and just run around the brass, as I say, just to key it, because you don't want it coming out. And when the super glue goes off, sometimes they will just crack out. So, okay, so what I'm going to do now is set my depth at 5.8mm, just like that. Okay, and I know I've got the chamfer the kind of right way round. So I'm going to take my glue looper, and I've got some glue here, and I'm just going to put a drop in there on the front and let that capillary in like that. Okay, and then I'm able to maneuver it. As you can see, I can play with it, get it all square. So I'm happy that everything's nice and square before the glue cures. And this is the no nonsense super glue from Screwfix. If you're in the UK, it's cheap as chips, and it allows you to set. Now, I would not use this stuff to build a resin kit because it's probably not very good. But for stuff like this, you know, it's got all the grooves in there. It's going to stick to the plastic like shit to a blanket. It's going to be absolutely fine. So there we go. So I'm happy with that. And as I say, they don't need to be absolutely perfect. Just good enough is going to be good enough. Okay, we just check the depth. Yep, we're 5.8mm. So now what I can do is come along with some more super glue run it in from that side, and then run some in from that side. And then if you want to, what I would probably do, you can see that's actually got that glue going again, so I can actually move that again. So if I want to get that nice and square, I can. Okay, so then that's that one. And what we do afterwards is come on with some extra thin super glue and let that go in there, and that'll really penetrate. And then I've got the copper one. This is the 1mm. Come here, Mr. No Nails, and you can see on the end there, I don't know if you can see, where I've actually scored it all up and made it rough so that it grips on the super glue, and that's got to go in flush with there so we get the angle right. And then again we've got our 5.8, just push that out to the 5.8, push the pin out and then push it back in with the caliper. Make sure the chamfer is good. If you've got a bit of excess there, then you can just file that off with those lovely diamond files. So put some glue in there, let it capillary in, and then I can play with that, get it nice and square, give it a twist. Job done. And all this is doing is just locating it before we put the big stuff in. And for the big stuff I'm going to use this one here, which is the Rocket Hot. It's wonderful glue. You get this from Premium Hobbies, but as you know, I'm honest, and I will always tell you my honest opinion. I think the bottle is crap, because you have to be careful when you tip the bottle over. I don't know if it'll do it now. It spits out as you tip it over, no matter how slow you go. It tried to then. And I was chatting to Chris from Rally Car Miniatures, and he said that it went. He was working close up, and it went in his eye. It's like, bloody hell. So be very, very careful with this when it spits out. It's a nightmare, but it's nice and thin, so it's going to penetrate in there and fill up the void, and that's why I leave a void. That's why I don't have a nice tight press fit in there. I want it to be loose. I want somewhere for the glue to go, and I'm going to see if I can get some in that side as well. And it will shrink down and dry to nothing. And those pins then ain't going nowhere. They are in there properly. So there we are. So there's our arms made up with brass pins, and they're going to fit beautifully. And I'm just going to grab cheap nasty cotton bud, not a nice Simon one, just like that. And then we can grab our Integrale. Oh, I've got the whole body here, I only need the floor, but you can see the way that's going to go. That's going to go in there like that, in the 1.2mm hole, just like so. It just comes out the other side there. You can put a little washer on there, job done, and that's going to sit in there beautifully. So that's that. So that is the pivot for our trailing arm. This actually isn't going to move, but we're just strengthening that pivot, that's all. Okay, so I'll do the other one, and then I'll be back after I've got this body back together. That'll also fit inside that side. We'll just check. Yep, there we are. Got in there, lovely. So there we go. In fact, these could actually be super glued into place. We don't need to worry about putting washers on and stuff. We could just glue that in once it's in. Bit of glue in there because it's not actually moving. So you don't need to worry about having welded in pins on the end and everything. I don't even know why they suggested that in the instructions. I haven't thought about it. So I'll get the other one done, and then we'll come back and look at something else. And there we go, they're done. So I've filed the ends with these lovely little diamond files, and you can see, or you can't see, I'll do some photos perhaps, but the 1mm has to be filed flush with the protrusion and the plastic, and then the 1.2mm you have to actually remake the protrusion. So they're good to go, and happy with how they've come out. So just check them against each other, and as we can see, I've got a slight difference in angle on that one. Very, very slow. Oh no, I haven't. It's just the way I was holding them. Not the first time I've had that problem. So there we go. So happy with that. That's going to have a slight twist in it. You can see there, because I've got that one is not perfectly square that way, so I can just give it a little tweak. It'll probably be absolutely fine. I could grab a pair of pliers actually and probably bend it without damaging the plastic. In fact, no, I won't. I'll just leave it because it's going to have to do. What I've actually done there, I've got that one. If you put them square next to each other, you can see that I've got that one. This one here is going that way slightly, but that's not going to matter at all. It's just going to twist it a touch. Doesn't really matter. So there we go. As I say, these are not moving parts and they don't control the suspension in any way, shape or form. All they're doing is they're just pivots for the suspension arms, for the trailing and the transverse links. So there we go. We've now got metal pivots rather than plastic pins. And just, I used to get asked this question a lot, and I don't seem to get it asked anymore. If you've got brass rod, the best way to cut it really is with a saw. But I tend to, rather than ruin a saw blade, I tend to use a knackered out old pair of cutters. You can see these things. They're absolutely shot. But you can actually just come along and cut, and it won't go through, but it'll make a dent in it big enough that you can just snap it off. With tube, copper tube, best way to cut copper tube is with a knife. Just put it down on the bench, you mark it where you want to cut it, and then you just roll the blade over the tube. I've got my finger over it to stop it shooting off. And you can just get lovely square ends on your tubing then, and just cut it with a blade. You can do the same with brass tubing, but it will wear your blades out a lot faster than cutting plastic, obviously. So that's that for this segment, and that's that for today. It's actually nearly 11 PM, and I'm going to have a relax now. Not a relapse, a relax, and go from there. But actually, they may not be as bad as I thought. No, it's not as bad as I thought, but it's going to be fine anyway. Just to show you, get all this crap out of the way, put the floor in there. That's going to go like that. That's going to go like that. We'll have our trailing arms coming out of there, and they are going to sit into the subframe on the back, on the rear diff. So looking good, all looking good. And as I say, once they're in, we'll glue them in with a spot of super glue, and then they ain't going to go nowhere. And if we have got a bit of error, you can see we've got plenty of movement, so we're good to go. Right, so there we are, guys. I'll see you for the next bit. Right, back, here we are about 2 days later. So if you remember, we did these arms and we talked about getting them into the chassis. So what I've done, I've built up the subframe, and if you're thinking, oh my god, you're never going to get the diff in, you're wrong. Luckily or unluckily, on mine, you can see on here, we've got these, on mine there's 3, but there's these semicircular protrusions sticking out that this cradle sits on top of and forms the circle for your, or the bore for your screws and stuff to go in. Well, on mine, one of them was broken off, so what I've done, I've got a piece of a piece of plastic rod, glued it into there. You can see this is how it should look on the end with the 2 semicircular slots, and I've glued it into the end and made it solid so that now it goes in, and I've now got a full hole for the pin to go in rather than half a hole. So if you remember, we did these, and basically these are going to go in like this. Now the diff, I can get it in by going, because it's broken, I can sort of place it in and then slide it under, and then get those 2 pins lined up in the bottom, and I can fit the diff like that, and then put the cradle on the top, and everything is good to go. So sort of lucky in a way that that was broken off, because I may not have thought of cutting it off to get the diff in, but obviously it makes painting a lot easier, because I can paint the diff separately, paint this separately, paint this separately, and of course that doesn't need to be glued in because it's held in with pins and screws and stuff, so there's going to be no messing up. The seam on here was nothing short of horrible, so that took a lot of filler and stuff. I actually used filler in there to clean that up so it looks good from underneath. So complete change of build sequence, guys. I would suggest, okay, assemble the subframe, cut that off, glue it onto your cradle like I've done, add your diff, right, and then add the cradle to the top like so, where you can actually get that in. Make sure you've got the exhaust fitted to the floor, okay, and then fit the arms and the transverse arms, links and diagonals, with the subframe and then fit the prop shaft. You can see in here they've asked you to glue the prop shaft in further back here. So you're fitting the exhaust of the prop shaft. Don't do that. Do it afterwards. So basically what you're going to do is imagine your exhaust is in place. You're going to have your diff like this with or without the cradle. And then what you're going to do is have these arms in here. Okay, and you're going to put that arm through there. He says. It does go in because I've had it in before. There we go. Okay, just like that. And then you're going to put that arm in there. And then slot that arm into there. And then you're going to put your diff in without pulling that arm out like I've just done. Put your diff in with its subframe, just like so. It's a very tight fit. It's almost like it's been made too wide. If you kind of put one end in first, if you put this end in first, certainly on mine anyway. Oh come on, where's the hole? You can see it's a very tight fit, but it does go in, and then the cradle wants to fall out. But basically, there we go. Okay, so that's going to go in like that. And now you can put the screws in from behind with your transverse links in here and your radius arms there. Then everything's going to be good to go. You can see I haven't got that one in there properly. And these can be glued in here because they're solid. They're not actually, none of this is pivoting. None of it moves. It's all just support. So you're going to do all that with the, and then fit your prop shaft afterwards. Okay, so that's the back end done. So we can take all that apart now, and we can put all the bits. You can see how tight that cradle is in there. We can put all the bits to one side and come back to that later once it's all painted and everything. So that's the rear end taken care of, and obviously all these transverse arms, as I said, are all going to go in with screws and everything, so everything's going to be good. Right, so let's go back to the front end. My 1.5 brass rod has now arrived. I ordered this from Scale Model Shop in the UK on Tuesday. It's now Thursday and it's here. Brilliant service, brilliant delivery. Sellotape to probably the most rigid piece of card I've ever seen, and beautifully wrapped up in a plastic bag. But you can see, even though they had beautiful packaging, the rod still managed to rip through the Albion Alloys bag. So I will phone them and say perhaps put another layer of tape around the bottom there, because it would have come through the plastic bag that it was brought in. But we've now got the rod there, so we've got our 1.5mm brass rod, and here we've got our front suspension arms. So I'll take them out of this tray so you can see things better. Let me know if you think the lighting looks better. I've got a new light as well now, so I've got an additional light. So I've now got 3 lights over the bench, so we shouldn't get too much shadowing. I don't know what it's like on the close-up stuff, but if I hold that up there, close-up, yeah, it's okay, isn't it? So the difficult stuff is the light-coloured plastic. I don't know what settings I should have, but that almost goes in there. So that's just going to need to be opened up a bit to 1.5, and then we're going to have to, like we did on the rear arms, we're going to cut these off, mark the centres, draw them out, glue a piece of rod in the same as these are, and I'm doing one at a time. And then I've got a reference from a lengths here. Okay, so obviously you want to keep the lengths the same, and then we're going to draw these out as well. Okay, so I'm going to do that off camera. You don't need to see all that again, and then I'll come back when we've done that and we'll see what it's like when we put it in the chassis. Right, so we finally got our brass rods in them now, so they're all good to go. The other side as well, so they're good to go. If you are doing this, be careful of the angle on the front one. It's got a slight weird angle on it, so just make sure you copy that. Not that it's that important, because they're only going to be moving like, you know, this much. Sorry, this much. They're not hardly going to move at all, so wouldn't worry about it too much. But basically we've now got the weak link is the plastic part rather than the epoxy little pin on the end. So what we can do now is, that's the wrong side for this side, what we can do now is fit the front pivot on there, and then we can fit the rear pivot. Remember, the flange goes underneath. It's like, it looks like the wrong way round, but it's it is right. And then that's just going to go into that hole in there, like so. Once again, the camera's on, so it's going to play hard to get. And there we go. So now we've got our suspension arm in there. You can see that it's all mounted. It's nice and solid. It still pivots, and it's good and strong. You can see I can flex the whole, I can twist the whole floor plan with it. So it's good and strong. So that's those done. Now I don't want to glue these in yet because obviously I want to paint the floor pan. These blocks, check the references, they're all sorts of different colours and stuff. These blocks here are actually inaccurate in a way, because what that is, that's actually like a C-section like this, and there's I use my tweezers to point. You've got a plate going up here on the outside, plate here, and there's also a plate going up there. It sandwiches between the two, so it's not actually correct, but it's underneath and it's all a bit, crappy anyway. So oh, and by the way, after my last video, and I was really having a rant about Italeri, and I said that's it, I'm not ever buying another one. I was thinking, I started looking around on on YouTube to see how other people got on with that Fiat 500, and I saw a couple of builds of the 695 SS, the Assetto Corsa, is it? And I've ordered one, so I'm going to have a go at that, and that might be a Premiere build. I might do the build start to finish. It looks like it's a lot of fun because the 695 SS is basically a race car version of the 500. So it has two seats in it. In fact, it even has a rear seat. But it has the boot lid held up, the one I mean. It's got two stays on it. It gives it downforce and also aids with cooling of the engine because it's an air-cooled engine, as you know. Yeah, it looks like a really, really lovely little kit. It's got lots and lots of photo etch in it. But that's what I was starting to say. It's like the standard body. The first thing you do is cut the wheel arches out and everything. So it's like it needs modification out the box. You know how much I love modifying stuff. So yeah, I'm going to get that and see what we can do with it. So that'll be a bit of fun. So I know that Simon out there, Simon, the man who sends me these wonderful cotton buds, I know he's got the 500, so we might be interested in a little buddy build on that. But anyway, so moving on with this, I've been pretty busy and been out on the lathe and playing. Now, if you remember, in my last video, I made these top mounts out of some clear spares I had. Okay, so they're the ball shaped top mounts that are like standard on the car. Magnets holding them together, got magnets in them now. So what I've been doing today on the lathe, let's pull all this out of here and put away what we don't need. That's about it. So here we can see the struts. Now, there's the standard. Right, so this is what you get in the kit, okay, and this is the rear. And what you can see on here, you've got that pip on the end of there. Almost looks like a bell end, doesn't it? Basically, it's designed so you put the spring on, you put that in, and then you sandwich it all together with the strut. But then, you've got to paint it first. You've got the seam to deal with that you can't get to because the spring's in the way. So I don't want to use that. So basically, I would have to cut this pip off if I was going to use it. So there you go, and then you end up with that like that. But you can see, when that's fixed into the top of the car, into the chassis of the car. If you can imagine, use a pointer, this part here is fixed to the car, okay? And this part here is fixed to the bottom. You can see what's going to happen. Your camber is going to be all over the place, and you're generally going to find your car sitting with the wheels all over the place. So, which is probably why, yeah? So, I mean, there are pictures of the built-up kit in the back here, aren't they? I'm not sure what they look like. I mean, it looks okay there. I can only imagine that when you pick the model up, they're all going to be flopping about. If you've built this kit out of the box, please let me know, but I can only imagine they're going to flop about, unless the springs are going to kind of keep them square. So basically, this is the rear. Not that I was using the rear one there. So you can basically see that at the top of there, it's all flopping. I don't like that. So what I've done, as you can see, I've glued these together, and then using my burr, I've bored these out to 3mm, which is about what size they are inside anyway. And then I've made shock absorber mounts. So they're the fronts, this is a rear here. So you can see this is actually turned aluminium. It's got a 3mm diameter piston, if you like, and then we've got the spring seat on the top, and then I've got this little raised area here which there's a screwed in there. You can see I've got a screw in there, okay, and I can screw that. That's tapped M1.6. Okay, so you can see I've got a little screw in there, so I can screw that screw back in. Now if it was too far, I've put a magnet in the chassis so I can wind the screw out if I need to. The other thing I can do is take the screw out, which I may well do, and machine some more aluminum off that diameter there to get the face closer into the magnet. So I may do that, because what I've done, if you look in the floor here, I've fitted magnets down in here, okay, and then I can put that in there and the magnet holds it in place, but it's actually sitting on the screw rather than on the actual seat. So I don't know, I can't even pull that away. I don't know if get away. I don't know if that's going to be any good. I may have to, take some off of there, but we shall see. So that's the rear, and you can see here that's going to go in there. And if I grab a spring just quickly, don't forget guys, if you've got this kit, that seatbelt harness in and all the rubber, the housing, it comes wrapped with masking tape. First thing you want to do is get that bag open and get the masking tape off, because we all know, if you're not going to build it straight away, that is, we all know that masking tape leaves that crystallized white deposit on everything. You don't want that. So basically now we've got, that's going to go like that. So instead of having, let's get the standard one. There's the standard one. So instead of having this, with that all sitting like, and all wobbling around like that, yeah, what we've got now is, there's the spring, that's going to go in there like that. So now we've got a rigid top mount, and you can see that slides up and down, and it's actually more accurate because it looks like this car has upside down shocks, where basically you have a great big, or it might just be a very very large diameter piston, but that piston inside there, if I put my hand so you can see it because you're not looking through it, but that piston inside there is a lot more accurate than the than that spinny little crap thing there, which you can just snap off, as you can see. Garbage. So that's going to go in there like that. Now the other thing I've done, in the bottom of the piston I have drilled a small hole, a 1mm hole, and I'm going to drill a small hole in the bottom of there, and then when I do the final assembly I will thread a piece of cord up through there, piece of braid, pull it out, glue it in the bottom of the piston, put the spring in place, put the piston in place, pull the cord down through a hole in here, okay, and then when I've got the height set right, as it would be with the kit parts, glue the cord there and then snip it off, and then that will stop it coming apart. But it's enabled me to build the strut, deal with the seam, sand everything out, paint it, get it all looking lovely, and then just stick it together just like that. And that's going to be a one-piece strut assembly as it would be on the real car. And I'm not sure if this is the right side or not, it doesn't really matter in this instance. We can see that that's going to go up in there, one in the magnet. Okay, so that's going to sit there like that. Yeah, and then we've got our working suspension, which I don't really care for, but it's all going to be strong and tough, so it'll be nice. It's good to have working suspension for nothing more than making sure it sits on four wheels. But so that's, if I had the transverse links in there, I could show you it all working. But as I've said, with the rear end it's all good, because we've got the metal pin there, we've got screws going in here, screws going in there, so everything is going to be tough. So that's really, really good. So there we go, that's the rear end. Okay, so take that out of there, and now that top's going to stay in there because the magnet's going to hold it in. Take that out. Now on the, let's get rid of the rear end stuff. that over there, put that over there, put that over there. Right, get all this here, we want all this. Get rid of that. Well, that's the crappy top mount, isn't it? So on the front I've done exactly the same thing. You can see that with the front, again, you've got that pip on the end. So I'm going to cut that pip off the end there. And then you'll be able to see that what you've got here is the same as I said before. The spring is more compressed in this instance, which is where the having the cord in there comes from. But basically you can see that when it's at the top it's like that. So with this one, you've only got that single pin contact at the bottom. So it's probably just going to all just flex about. So again, I have made a strut with a piston that goes in there. It's got a hole in there. I'll put a piece of cord in, pull it down through, job done. Wrong one. This one here is bored out to 3mm. So now we've got a shock absorber. It's got a bit of play in it, so it's got clearance so it doesn't bind. But basically I've turned these pistons to like 2.9 and bored the shafts out to 3. So basically now we've got a nice solid strut that's going to keep the camber in place and everything. If the geometry of the kit is okay, we should be laughing. Now if you remember, I made these as I showed you, and what I've done, I've glued temporarily, not temporarily, it's finally, but I've glued a magnet into here. Okay, it's got some super glue on it, it's just still a bit sticky, still a bit soft should I say. But that basically is going to sit in there like that. So I've used the front one, rear one. So basically the rear one is flat, the front one is flat, and it's got a magnet, as you can see there's a magnet pressed in the end there. And what that'll do, you can see as well, the outside edge is chamfered off. So that can sit in this ball, if you like. The magnet will hold it together, but it's able to pivot around in there so it doesn't actually control the caster camber. And then that is going to go, let's take this piece of tape off. I've got tape on and protecting those nuts I put on. So that is going to go up in there like so. So you can see now we've got a realistic top mount, and our strut will sit below, and we've now got, as you can see here, if I hold the chassis, you can see here we've got a great big nut there at the back, all in the correct position, and we've got working suspension, steering and everything, and there we go. Now at the bottom, let's get rid of that. At the bottom we have, let's get it out of there because the glue's not dry yet. At the bottom we have this plastic pin that goes into the wishbone here, which I'm not that keen on. It's just going to work its way out, snap off, whatever. So I've made up these little brass pins, and what that's going to do is I can drill out the bottom of the upright and then put those little brass pins there. You can see they're the same shape as the kit parts. We've got that big dome on there with the the detail of the big dome nut. And basically that's going to push in there, and then that will go up through there like so. It just needs to be opened out, I think. I've made these 1.6 because these are like a prick in the top out, they're really loose. So there we go. So that's going to go up through there. I'm going to make a disc and glue a disc in there so that that pin is retained and it can't just pop out, although it is quite tight in there anyway. And then draw the bottom of the upright out, and that's going to go in there. So you can see that pin in there on the end there coming through the bottom. So basically now what I've done is taken all the pivot points on the whole car and they've all got metal in them, rather than having these poxy little spindly bits of plastic that just break off. So, well, it will just break off. But as I say, none of this is actually necessary. This is just something I want to do because I fear that going forward this kit is going to be falling to bits. As Harry said with his 500, you pick it up, it's all lovely, you pick it up and the weight of the wheels breaks the little pins off and everything. So all I'm doing is replacing the pins with metal. And I'm going to do the same on that Fiat 500 when it arrives. So if you're enjoying this, make sure you tune in for that one. This is what I really enjoy. I'm an engineer. This is the part of modelling I really enjoy. So it's like, what happens? I get all this bit done and then it goes back in the box and I've lost interest. Because that's it. No, this is a car that I absolutely love. I love the scheme. I love the way it looks. I love the big front wheels with the big air cooling ducts in them. So I think this one will get finished because it's Martini. It's a Lancia. I love Lancia, as some of you know, and that's it really. So that's why I'm going to town with it. This is one of those I read many years ago, and this is something that I should live by, and I don't. If you're into scale modelling, you should never pick up a new project if you are not absolutely devoted to seeing the finished article. And I thought that was a really good thing to say. It's like, you know, somebody brings out the model of the Group 5 Monte Carlo Lancia, which is my favourite of all Lancias, and I've just managed to get that 24th scale one from America, and I've bought the 12th scale one, which is the Model Factory Hero kit, which is still sealed in the box. I haven't even looked inside the cardboard wrapping because I'm just saving it for a rainy. You know, sometimes you get something and you save it and save it and save it because you're so looking forward to it. That's what I'm doing. Maybe immature, whatever, I don't know. But I'm just saving it and saving it for a day that I can really get excited and open it. So there we go, guys. So I'm not sure how long we've been with this one, but I think it's probably about the hour. So there we go. The other thing I wanted to show you, I've painted the steering rack now. I've primed it just to give it a seam check, really. And as I said before, if you want to go for this method of construction, you know, if you want to change your method of construction, follow my videos. I often don't. I've never been bitten yet. Somebody asked me on my Strut build. I keep changing it around. Am I going to get bit? And I've never been bit yet. So, but I think that is a far better way to go than doing what they suggest in the instructions. Because now you can come along, you can fit the steering rack like this into there, so that fits in there like that. Okay, and now I'm running this rear suspension is going to fall out, and now you can fit your column when you've got your bulkhead in. You can fit your column and your steering rack, your column's there, but also, like I said before, the column's not in there in the way, going to get broken off. So you can assemble this, so now you can deal with the seams. You can paint your steering rack so it looks nice. You can fit it to the model and then fit your column after when it's ready, rather than have it breaking off. It's a win-win-win-win all round. So win-win-win-win. That was that bloke, that Welsh bloke, wasn't it? So basically, I'm going to put all these back in this bag. I'm going to open up. I'll show you how easy this is. This is how good these little burring tools are. Okay, I'm not going to drill it or anything. So that's got like the, what size is it? It's a 1.5mm hole, something like that. 1.7mm hole. Okay, 3mm burr. Just go in. You don't even need to keep drilling it. You just go backwards and forwards like that. Yeah, I haven't left this long enough for the glue to dry. It's stretching the seam. But basically, just go into there like that. Now it's just removing some bits of plastic inside there. There's something it catches on. There's an edge in there or something. Okay, so that's that opened out. 3mm. Blow it out. Give it a tap. Get all the debris out. As I say, we'll have to drill a small hole through the bottom, and then we can pull some cord through. And what I'll do is I'll pass the cord through there, pull it out through here, glue it into the strut, pull the strut down, glue it, and that'll be it. Then we'll have a one-piece strut. And now you can see that goes in there and slides around and fits nice and snug. And I'm going to put some more extra thin on there when I think of it, because I've just stressed that joint and I don't want any splits appearing. There we go. So just to show you once more, there's the other one here. Okay, no drilling out or anything, just using my burr. I'm not going to push as hard this time. Let the burr do the work, and then I won't have the parts splitting open on me. Give it a clean. Hold these parts together. I can feel it starting to bite. Down inside there it's quite a rough moulded finish, because it doesn't need to be a nice finish because it's not really doing anything. But if you use the kit parts, nothing's ever going to touch it. But you can see here, just cleaning it out. Give the tool a clean. Once it gets clogged, it stops working. And then we can just go in there. I can feel it cutting around. It's cutting away little lumps. and this one is a bit deeper. You don't want to go too deep because you'll end up bloody shearing your shock absorber off. There we go. So that's done like that. Give that a tap, get the rubbish out of it. And then where's my rear shock? Here's the rear. That'll go in there. Dum dum dum. Lovely job. So there we are. Easy as that. And then we grab our, make sure our little bit's out of the way. We grab our T-Hoo vacuum from Amazon. Get that clean. And just vacuum up the dirt rather than brush it on the floor. That is a great little tool. Great little thing. So there we go, guys. So that's that. Thanks for watching. This has been part 4. I will see you for... Ooh, I don't know if there... Yeah, there will be a part 5 because I'll get all this together. So I think now we're actually getting to the point on this model where I can start painting stuff and start putting stuff together and have it looking nice. The actual uprights have the bearings going in the back and the outer CV boots going in, and then the disc actually holds them in, and then we fit the caliper. So that's all going to look lovely. The struts on the front, I can't remember the back, the struts on the front are like a very, very bright plated colour. They look almost like chrome, so they're going to look lovely. And then we've got bits and pieces which are CAD plated or yellow zinc plated, whatever, but these places here, that for instance. So we'll try and replicate all that. People are asking where I got my references from. Just Google Lancia Delta Integrale Group A, and that's it. And look around for auction sites selling off rally cars, because they tend to have like 30 or 40 pictures of the car, and the beauty of them I've found is they don't take them down, they leave them up. So like one of the best ones I've found is it's actually an Evo, but it's great, it's fantastic, really, really good photography. It's a red car, and there's all pictures of it up on the ramps and all that, so you get the detailed pictures. But just look around, for the auction sites. They'll have all the pictures on there, and you're laughing. So there we go. That's all away in the bag. I don't want to put them in yet because the super glue is still wet. One thing I forgot to say, in here what I intend to do is make up a plastic disc. I've been sent a cutter, Shadow I think it is. It's like a disc bay cutter, but John has sent me this, God bless him. He bought a disc base, so he said you can have my Shadow because it's surplus to requirements, but it's basically like a disc base circle cutter. Lovely bit of kit. I haven't even put it together yet, but I can try that out on those, making those little circles, and then glue them in there, and that will sort of mean then that the magnet is bonded in with a plastic to plastic joint or epoxy, whatever, rather than just held in there with some super glue. It's going to easily pop out. So anyway, watch this space, and we'll move forward to step 5 soon. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.